Benny Bear and Ruby Rabbit, night at the pond. The moon hung high in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the forest. Benny Bear stretched and yawned as he stepped out of his den. What a perfect night for an adventure, he said to himself. Just then a soft rustling came from the bushes. Out hopped Ruby Rabbit, her ears twitching with excitement. "Benny, you're awake," she whispered. "I was just about to visit the pond. Want to come?" Benny's eyes lit up. "That sounds like fun. Let's go." The two friends padded quietly through the forest. The cool night air smelled of pine and fresh earth. Fireflies danced around them, their tiny lights flickering like stars. When they reached the pond, the water shimmered under the moonlight. Lily pads floated lazily on the surface, and a chorus of frogs sang a rhythmic tune. Ruby giggled. "Listen to the frogs, it's like they're putting on a concert." Benny chuckled. "And look at that." He pointed to a family of ducks, their reflections rippling in the water. "The pond is so different at night." Just then a gentle plop broke the stillness. Ruby's ears perked up. "What was that?" she asked. Benny peered into the water. Something moved. Maybe it's a fish. Suddenly, a little green turtle popped its head above the surface. "Hello, friends," it said. Ruby clapped her paws. "Oh, it's Terry Turtle. We didn't know you were out this late." Terry grinned. "I love nighttime swims. The water is so cool and peaceful." Benny dipped a paw into the pond and shivered. "Brrr! A little too cool for me." The three friends sat by the water watching the moon's reflection ripple with every movement. A soft breeze rustled the reeds and the frogs' chorus grew softer, as if they were settling down for the night. "This is the most peaceful adventure ever," Ruby whispered. Benny nodded. "Sometimes the best adventures are the quiet ones." Just as they were about to leave, a shooting star streaked across the sky. Ruby gasped. "Did you see that?" Terry smiled. "That means tonight is extra special." Benny stretched and yawned. "Special but sleepy. I think it's time to head home." Ruby agreed, and they said goodnight to Terry before making their way back through the forest. The fireflies still danced, guiding them like tiny lanterns. As Benny reached his den, he turned to Ruby. "Thanks for the adventure, Ruby. The pond is even more magical at night." Ruby smiled. "Let's do it again, sometime." With that, Benny curled up in his cozy den, and Ruby hopped home, both dreaming of moonlit ponds and starry skies. The Great Picnic Mix-Up. It was a perfect spring morning when Benny and Ruby decided to have a picnic in Maplewood Park. The sky was as blue as a robin's egg. Birds chirped cheerfully, and the scent of blooming flowers danced through the air. Benny packed his famous triple-decker sandwiches, carrot sticks, and a thermos of lemonade. Ruby brought strawberry tarts, cheese cubes, and her grandmother's blueberry muffins. "Nothing like a good picnic to start the weekend right," Benny said, hoisting his checkered basket onto his shoulder. The pair found the ideal spot, under a big oak tree near the pond. They spread out a blanket and set their baskets down, eager to dig in. But before they could open the lids, a strange rustling came from the nearby bushes. "Did you hear that?" Ruby asked, narrowing her eyes. Before Benny could answer, two small masked faces poked out of the shrubs. Raccoons, and not just any raccoons. These two had tiny backpacks and a suspicious gleam in their eyes. "Hey!" Benny cried as the raccoons zipped forward, snatched the picnic baskets, and dashed into the woods. "Those were our lunches!" Ruby shouted, scrambling to her feet. "Split up!" Benny called. "I'll go left, you go right!" Ruby chased through wildflowers and over fallen logs, her eyes scanning for black and grey tails. Benny followed a trail of sandwich crumbs. Eventually they met up at a clearing and found the raccoons lounging in a sunbeam, pawing through their loot. But something was off. "These aren't our baskets," Benny whispered. "Look." The baskets looked similar, but inside were odd items. A rubber chicken, a jar of pickle-flavoured jelly beans, a tiny top hat, and a half-knitted scarf. The raccoons froze. One of them hissed and grabbed the baskets, bolting once more. "Ah! Wait, you have the wrong baskets!" Ruby yelled. They ran after the raccoons again, deeper into the woods until they stumbled into a hidden grove. There, beneath a thicket, were 2 more baskets. Their baskets! "Oh no," Ruby groaned. "Those sneaky raccoons must have stolen the wrong ones first, and now they think we took theirs." "Well, they did kind of take ours first," Benny pointed out. Suddenly the raccoons reappeared. This time they carried their original baskets, plus a large pine cone in a threatening posture. "Easy there," Ruby said, slowly reaching into her basket. "Let's make a trade." She pulled out a blueberry muffin and placed it on a flat rock between them. The raccoons paused, sniffed the air, then looked at each other. Benny added a triangle of sandwich. "We call this a peace offering." The raccoons chittered, set down the strange baskets, and scooted forward. One grabbed the muffin, the other took the sandwich. They squeaked with delight. "See?" Ruby smiled. "All better." The raccoons nodded, plopped the baskets down, and gave a tiny salute before disappearing into the trees. Back on their blanket, Benny and Ruby finally unpacked their real picnic. "Think they'll enjoy the jelly beans and rubber chicken?" Benny asked, taking a bite of his sandwich. "Probably," Ruby giggled, "though I wouldn't want to be around when they figure out the scarf isn't finished." As they munched and laughed, a tiny top hat rolled across the grass towards them. One raccoon peeked from behind a bush, gave a sly wink, and disappeared again. "Well," Ruby said, putting the hat on a nearby rock like a trophy, "this'll be a picnic to remember." And it was. The Moonlight Map Mystery. The forest was quiet under the glow of a full moon. Benny Bear snuggled into his sleeping bag near the campfire, his marshmallow stick still in one paw. Ruby Rabbit sat beside him, flipping through a book of constellations and sipping carrot cocoa. "This is the best campout ever," Benny said with a happy sigh. Ruby nodded. Stars, snacks, and no chores. Just then a soft shimmer streaked across the sky, a small glowing object falling from above. It twirled and sparkled as it drifted down, landing gently in a patch of moss not far from their tent. "What was that?" Benny whispered, eyes wide. "Only one way to find out," Ruby said, already hopping toward it. They reached the spot and found a glowing scroll gently pulsing with blue light. "It's a map!" Ruby exclaimed, unrolling it carefully. "Look, there's the old oak tree, the bubbling creek, and what's this?" She pointed to a golden X deep in the part of the forest labelled Whispering Pines. Benny squinted. "That's past the place where the trees look like they're leaning in to talk to each other." "Exactly," Ruby grinned. "A treasure map. And we're going to follow it?" Benny gulped. "Right now. Right now." They packed a flashlight, a compass, snacks, very important, and the glowing map. The moonlight lit their path as they ventured into the deeper forest, shadows dancing on the ground like gentle ghosts. The map's first clue read, "Where moonlight glows and owls call twice. Turn left past the log, not once, but twice." They walked until they heard 2 soft owl hoots echo through the trees. "Left, past the log. Not once, but twice," Benny muttered. Ruby nodded. "It means we loop left around 2 fallen logs. Keep your eyes open." They spotted the first log by a patch of wild mushrooms and the second near a thicket of ferns. With each turn, the map shimmered more brightly. The second clue appeared on the scroll. "Where fireflies twinkle and cattails sway. Look for the stump shaped like a sleigh." They reached the edge of the creek where fireflies blinked like tiny lanterns. A soft breeze made the cattails dance. Just beyond, they spotted the stump, curved and smooth just like an old sleigh. Ruby tapped it. "Next clue!" The map shimmered again. "Beneath the tallest pine you'll find. A hidden door, of ancient kind. Speak the secret, loud and clear, and treasure's path will soon appear." They reached Whispering Pines, where the trees grew so tall they seemed to hold up the sky. One tree towered above the rest, bark dark and twisted with age. At its base was a hollow knot, just large enough for a paw, or a fluffy rabbit paw. A hidden door, Benny whispered. But what's the secret word? Ruby frowned, thinking. Then her ears perked. Try moonlight. Benny leaned in close. Moonlight? The knot shimmered and creaked open with a soft click. A patch of earth slid away, revealing steps carved into stone, glowing faintly. Whoa, they both said at once. They climbed down into a cozy chamber lit by glowing moss. In the center sat a wooden chest wrapped in ivy and dusted with time. Ruby tugged open the lid. Inside were books with golden pages, tiny jars of glittering ink, old explorer tools, and a journal titled Secrets of the Forest. This isn't just treasure, Benny said, wide-eyed. It's a whole collection of forest knowledge. Ruby opened the journal and read a page aloud. This treasure is for the curious of heart, the brave of paw, and the ones who never stop exploring. Benny smiled. That's us. They packed up the journal and a few treasures to share with their friends, then made their way back under the rising dawn. As they reached their tent, the map faded gently into stardust and vanished. Do you think it'll come back someday? Benny asked sleepily. Ruby grinned. Maybe. But next time, we'll be ready. I can't. They crawled into their sleeping bags, the stars above slowly giving way to the sun, and just before Benny drifted off, he whispered, Best camp out ever. Benny and Ruby's talent show trouble. The forest clearing buzzed with excitement. Colourful posters fluttered in the breeze announcing, Forest talent show one night only. Reedy. All creatures welcome to perform. Benny Bear clutched a flyer in his paw. Ruby, are you sure we should do this? Ruby Rabbit twirled with excitement. Of course, we've got talent. We just have to pick the right act. Benny scratched his head. I don't know if I have a talent. Nonsense, Ruby said. You're great at drumming, dancing, juggling pine cones. But I've never done any of that in front of everyone, Benny said, shrinking behind a tree. What if I mess up? What if I trip and fall? What if I sneeze glitter on the mare again? Ruby giggled. That was impressive last year. She clapped her paws together. Okay, we just need to try a few acts and find the perfect one. Let's start with juggling. Ruby tossed 3 apples to Benny. He caught one, fumbled the second, and the third bounced off his head. Maybe not juggling, Ruby said quickly. They tried a dance routine, but Benny stepped on her ears. They attempted a magic trick, but the hat they borrowed from Owl wouldn't stop hooting. And when they tried singing, a squirrel politely asked if they could practice quieter. Ruby sighed and flopped onto a stump. Too many ideas. None of them are working. Benny sat beside her. I just don't think I can do this, Ruby. Ruby looked at him gently. You're scared, huh? He nodded. Well, she said, hopping up, you don't have to go on stage alone. We're in this together. If we keep things simple and fun, we can do it. Benny blinked. What if we just told a story? Ruby's ears perked. Ooh, like a shadow puppet story. They rushed back to Ruby's burrow, where she had a flashlight, a white sheet, and lots of cardboard. Benny cut out shapes, trees, animals, even a dragon, while Ruby wrote a silly script about 2 forest friends who outwit a grumpy troll. By the next morning, they had it all. A short, funny story, a set of paper puppets, and most importantly, a plan they both felt good about. Still, as showtime arrived and forest creatures filled the clearing, Benny's paws started to tremble. What if I drop the flashlight, he whispered, or forget my lines? Ruby squeezed his paw. Then I'll help. And if I mess up, you'll help me. That's what friends do. The stage was set. A simple sheet stretched between 2 trees. Benny crouched behind it with the flashlight. Ruby held the first puppet. The announcer called out, "Now presenting Benny Bear and Ruby Rabbit." The crowd cheered. The lights dimmed. The story began. In a forest much like this one, Ruby narrated, two brave adventurers set off to find the lost pie of Blueberry Mountain. Shadow puppets danced across the screen. Benny made silly sound effects, boing, whoosh, while Ruby brought the characters to life. The crowd laughed when the troll appeared with a spoon instead of a sword and cheered when Benny made the dragon burp bubbles. Benny forgot all about being nervous. He was too busy having fun. When the story ended, the audience erupted in applause. Fireflies blinked above like tiny spotlights. Ruby peeked out from behind the sheet. Benny followed, smiling shyly. Mayor Moose waddled over, beaming. A delightful performance, funny, clever, and perfectly told. Benny looked at Ruby. "We did it." "We really did," she said. Back at their tent, as the stars came out, Benny munched on a blueberry muffin someone had gifted them. "Next year," he said, "we could try a musical version." Ruby laughed. "Only if the hat doesn't hoot this time." They clinked their muffins together like a toast. "To teamwork," Benny said. "And to finding your talent," Ruby added. "Even if it takes a few bouncing apples first," Benny grinned. The Lost Kite Adventure. It was the windiest day of spring, and Ruby couldn't wait to fly her favourite kite. It was bright red with golden stars and a long, swirly tail that fluttered like a dancing ribbon. "Ready, Benny," she called to her little brother who held the string. "Let's make it fly all the way to the clouds," Benny cheered. The kite soared into the sky, spinning and twirling above the meadow. Ruby laughed as the wind tugged at it, strong and playful. But suddenly, whoosh! A mighty gust snapped the string right from Benny's hands. "Oh no!" Ruby cried. "It's getting away!" The red kite zipped across the sky like a shooting star. Without thinking, Ruby and Benny took off running. "Don't worry," Ruby shouted. "We'll get it back." They raced through the tall grass and into the forest. The trees swayed, leaves swirling around them. Just as they were about to give up, a rustle came from the bushes. Out popped a curious raccoon. "Looking for something?" he asked. "Our kite flew away," Benny puffed. "I saw it go that way," the raccoon said, pointing his paw. "Past the river. Want help?" "Yes, please," Ruby nodded. With the raccoon leading the way, the trio hurried toward the river. When they arrived, they saw the kite caught high in a tree on the other side. "But how do we cross?" Benny asked. Suddenly, a big splash interrupted them. A beaver popped up from the water, balancing a stick on her head. "Need to get across?" she asked. "I'm building a bridge. Help me finish and you can cross." Ruby and Benny helped carry branches while the raccoon stacked them. Before long, a sturdy bridge stretched over the river. "Thank you," Ruby said as they ran across. But just as she reached the tree, the wind blew again. Whoosh! And the kite flew free. "There it goes!" Benny yelled, pointing as it soared up and away toward the mountains. They hurried on, following the kite's path. The forest thinned and the air grew colder. Ruby's legs ached, but she wouldn't give up. At the foot of the mountain, a shadow passed overhead. They looked up to see a large owl circling. "Are you chasing that red kite?" the owl hooted as he landed on a branch. "Yes," Ruby called. "It floated past the cliffs. I'll guide you to the top," the owl offered. They climbed and climbed, their new owl friend gliding overhead. The path twisted and turned, but finally they reached the top. There, tangled in a rocky bush, was the kite. Ruby ran to it and gently untangled the string. "I got it," she cheered. But then she looked around and gasped. From the top of the mountain, she could see everything: the forests, the river, the meadows below. The wind tugged gently at the kite as if asking for one last flight. "Let's fly it here," Ruby said, handing the string to Benny. The red kite soared higher than ever before, twirling in the sky. The owl hooted, the raccoon clapped his paws, and the beaver waved from below. When the sun began to set, the wind calmed and Ruby reeled the kite back in. "Time to go home," she smiled, but that was the best adventure ever. As they hiked down the mountain, the kite tucked safely under her arm, Ruby knew she'd always remember the day the wind carried her favourite kite, and her and Benny, on an unforgettable journey.